Welcome to Wellspring on the Air. I'm your host for today, Lindsey Steffen, and I'm here today with Salima. So Salima, I'd love for you to introduce yourself formally and let us know a little bit about who you are before we dive in.
Lindsey, thank you so much for having me. My name is Salima Harris. I am a new student intern at Wellspring Counseling. Only been here a couple of months, but just definitely enjoying the process and learning and growing for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, she's been such an asset to us. She's helping with our bounce trauma camp. She's with us at Urban Promise, one of our partner sites, and then seeing clients. So we love our student interns. Well, today we're actually going to be talking about grief and loss, and especially in these COVID times. So COVID-19 has changed almost everything for a lot of us. There's been a lot of tragedy and a lot of cause to have grief. And there's been many losses we've experienced, from more traditional losses to maybe losses we don't even realize we're grieving as a loss. So we're just going to talk through and dialogue here today about what you might be experiencing and have not put words to yet. So we're hoping this is helpful in your own grieving process. I think probably, I don't know if it's safe to say, but I would think all of us have some grief in this time. We're grieving something that isn't normal or that we've lost, even if it's a routine, seeing a certain person, or going all the way to actually losing loved ones. Because I think the loss of life has been over 130,000 families have been exposed to that, really serious loss, losing someone they love. So yeah, well, Salima, why don't you tell us, if people listening, we're in this COVID time, what are some losses that they might be experiencing, that we're all experiencing in this time in the pandemic?
Well, you definitely mentioned a big one, the death of family members and loved ones. Not having the ability to see them before they pass, those dying alone, not having the opportunity to even bury them or have a service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the big losses that a lot of people are experiencing. Freedom is another loss that people during COVID-19 are experiencing. Just the loss of normal everyday, activities, just going out to eat or going inside of a mall, those kind of losses.
Yeah.
People are losing their jobs, not being able to socially connect with loved ones, and there's so many.
Yeah, we could talk on and on. Yeah. And I think too, some of these losses, there's a uniqueness about it because it's not over. Sometimes we'll have a loss and then it's kind of a marked point in time. Like we have anniversaries of losses, like this is the day this happened, but COVID is still ongoing. We're still experiencing stress and anxiety and depression, maybe. All the uncertainty keeps us on edge. And I think we want to grieve maybe, but also we're so anxious. It's like, I don't have time to stop and grieve and be sad. And also I don't know what's coming next. So I think it's kind of a complicated grief process, if I could put it that way.
I absolutely agree. We're learning new things every day. We're going through the phase one, or then we went to phase two, and particularly in Florida, we may be moving back to phase one in some instances. So it is really difficult, as you mentioned, with the uncertainty, the higher cases again in Florida. Just not knowing, when it'll end, when it'll go away. All of that is definitely adds to, as you mentioned, the anxiety and sometimes even depression.
Definitely. Yeah. I've experienced kind of some of those symptoms. Most of our therapists, as we talk, like, yeah, we've been stressed. Some of us have had, some days where we feel depressed. And so we're all humans and we're all experiencing it together, but we definitely want to be here for you all during that time. So we are going to talk about resources and things to give hope kind of closer to the end of the show. So hang on with us. We're talking about kind of the hard stuff right now. Maybe it feels like a downer, pessimistic, but we want to talk about reality. We don't want to deny our emotions or our experience. I don't know, maybe Salima, you could speak a little bit about that and denial and maybe why we shouldn't go that route in this time.
Yeah. Thanks again. I think that denying how we feel prolongs the grief process with any type of loss, especially COVID-19 is no different. You know what I mean? So just denying that just doesn't allow us to, process properly. The feelings that we have, the thoughts that we have, they don't go away. So sometimes they may manifest themselves in unhealthy ways that we may not even think connects to the grief that we're experiencing due to the losses from COVID-19 or grief and loss in general. So it's definitely important to acknowledge how we feel and not ignoring it so that we can, grieve well and begin the healing
Yeah.
process.
Absolutely. And grieving is actually normal. So I think we hear grief and that's a big word like depression, grief. And to us, those are very normal words. We use them all day. We don't have a stigma with them, but we understand some people do kind of maybe get scared or gun shy with those words. But think about it. Even joyous events in our lives, like having a baby, how exciting for most people. Usually we're having the baby showers and, all the things, preparing, getting the room ready. But also the parents are probably going to grieve their loss of sleep and maybe
Definitely,
some loss of,
definitely.
yeah, Salima's a mama, so she knows. So yeah, you're going to be tired. You're going to grieve the time you could just get in the car and go and walk through Target or whatever was your thing, get a coffee. And now you're like, nope, this baby depends on me 24/7. So yeah. So there's always, maybe kind of some grief anyway with changes, even changes like graduating from college or high school. So exciting. We usually celebrate those things, but also there might be the grief of moving away, leaving friends, leaving family. So I guess what I'm trying to do is normalize grief. That grief happens, you're experiencing it, whether you use the word or not. But also we're here to hopefully give some hope that you can grieve well and it not be like kind of that punch to the gut, but there's things you can do to lessen your symptoms, lessen how you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree. When I think about what you mentioned as far as, moving away to college and graduate, or, when we graduate and then move away to college or just move out as an adult, we're excited, and happy, it shows a sense of responsibility and independence, but then there also may be some anxiety that, is coupled with that. And sometimes, we do experience those emotions that are opposite. We're happy, we're excited, and then we may be nervous and a little worried just because this is something new. And so that's very normal as well. Just having a sense of concern. Oh, I'm doing this on my own, or just worried like, oh, is this going to work out? Is this the right decision? So those feelings can be coupled with feelings of excitement and joy too, even in good changes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we call in therapy world, mixed emotions.
Yes.
So you can have all the positive ones and there can be some negative in there
Mhm.
too, but if we kind of can just acknowledge all that's there and give it a little attention, it can come and visit and keep on moving. We say at Wellspring, it's like visitors. They come to the house, they knock on the door, you let those emotions in, have tea with them, and then they can go. We're not going to get stuck in grief, which sometimes people might be scared of. At least if we're going through the grief process, maybe with the support we need, often with therapy, of course, we would believe in that, and specifically doing grief counseling. I've walked a lot of people through losing spouses, things like that, and definitely there is a road to freedom and healing and really honoring them, missing them, appreciating them for what they were in your life and who they still are, but being able to be happy again and have other relationships and be fulfilled. So I kind of jumped into it, but maybe Salima, I want to hear from you. Why is it important to grieve losses?
It's important to grieve losses for several reasons. One important reason, I think I mentioned it earlier, is because we have feelings, we have emotions, and it's important to acknowledge them, to feel them. They are God-given emotions. God gives us good emotions as well as bad emotions. And we even see in the Word of God where he, experienced all of, sadness, anger,
Yeah.
frustration. So if Jesus experienced those emotions, how can we not, expect to not feel them? So it's important to feel them, experience them, so that we can move on from them, so that we can learn from them and grow from them, and be better people. When we do that, the grief, the loss, doesn't become our identity. It becomes a small part of our story. It's what we're even talking about in Bounce right now. But
Yes.
if we don't, acknowledge those, feelings that may have stigma with them, sadness and, frustration and anger, they become a bigger part of us. They manifest themselves. And like I said before, in unhealthy ways,
Yeah.
so it impacts us, big, if we don't acknowledge them.
Yeah. I see that a lot in clients when anxiety starts to happen because there's something they're not dealing with. It's often sadness or hurt or grief, but they come in and they're just so riddled with anxiety, but we realize it's kind of, they haven't let those house guests come in. The emotions are knocking at the door, and now they're just building up and they're pounding and they're loud now, and my heart is racing. And so that is kind of one of our Bounce, the trauma camp we do at Wellspring for kids and now adults. That's an example or imagery we use, that, let them in, let them come, and they will go. But if we don't let them come, then we start to notice our body is actually freaking out, letting us know, hey, ding, 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 something's wrong. You need to give attention to something, which, often grief is one, manifesting then as anxiety or anger. So, okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, we're about to take a break, but maybe just start out telling me a little bit what it would look like to grieve well. And then we will take a break and we'll come back and finish your thoughts on that.
Okay. To grieve well, first, acknowledge it. I am sad. I am mad. I am angry. I am frustrated. Say those things. Name those emotions. First we acknowledge it. Once we acknowledge it, we can begin to process all of those feelings, be it one at a time. So that's what that looks like. So just talking through, thinking through, I am mad. Why am I mad? I'm mad because this person is gone. I'm mad because, I'm going to miss what we shared. I am mad. So when we process through, we talk about why we're mad, then we move into, ways of coping, positive coping with that. Again, how do we, learn and grow from the situation? It's hard to, acknowledge it, but sometimes there are blessings, and the various kinds of losses that we experience, especially during COVID. It gives us, time to be planted, time to, sit and rethink and be with God, just ask him his purpose. How would he have us to serve even during these times, So in some instances, families, can grow closer. The ones who are quarantining in home together, like playing games and things like that, just spending quality time. So, it's definitely important to process, and then hopefully, find joy, maybe hard, but find it, after processing, of course.
That's so good. Well, we're going to come back and talk more about that because I love where you're going with it, but we're going to take a short break. And I'm Lindsey Steffen with Wellspring on the Air. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to our audience. I'm here with Salima, and we've been talking about grief and loss, especially in these times of COVID. So just to review a little bit, if you missed the first half of the show, definitely go to the podcast app on your phone, look us up, Wellspring on the Air, and you can catch that first half where we talked about grief and what is loss, what kinds of losses are we experiencing with COVID. We talked about the importance of grieving loss and feeling your feelings so they don't build up or start to come out like anxiety, irritation, anger, things like that. So definitely go and check that out if you missed it. And we're going to stay on this topic. And COVID-19 has been an unexpected visitor this year. A lot of us, I would say most people, I feel like I can safely say everyone has experienced some loss, even just loss of normalcy, if not those other losses we mentioned, which has been actually losing family members to death. We've had economic impacts, just missing celebrating births, weddings, so many things, just our liberty, graduating, doing things in person with our friends and family. So we're going to keep on moving with that. And we talked a little bit about grieving well, and Salima spoke beautifully about feeling our feelings, not letting them build up, not denying them. So let's stay there for a little bit. I think that's a really helpful topic for all of us. So any other thoughts, Salima, on grieving well?
Well, grieving well, again, just acknowledging, feeling your feelings, finding positive ways to cope, to even honor the various types of losses. And it may sound a little, I'm trying to think of the word, demeaning or dismissive, but finding positive, finding joy in this new normal that we're all experiencing. So that is another way to grieve well during COVID. It's also important to acknowledge when we're not grieving well. So what is that? So what does that look like? We talked a little bit about that before earlier. It looks like denial. It's trying to behave as if COVID-19 or the other loss never took place. You know, we're just trying to move along and, you know, just not even acknowledging it. So that's not well. And another thing, sometimes we may have overwhelming, you know, intrusive, negative thoughts with the loss that we're experiencing with COVID, especially because, you know, we're home a lot more than what we were in the past. So when we have those thoughts and we decide to self-medicate and do other harmful things, that's not well either. So that's not grieving well. That's, you know, harming yourself, and, you know, we're actually kind of moving backwards when we do that. So that's
good point. It's escaping instead of actually facing what's in front of you and how you're feeling about it. So, okay. Yeah. And along that vein, I mean, this is maybe hopefully appropriate, but I had someone say to me, I don't know if after this, if I should go to Weight Watchers or AA first, is kind of, you know, like making a joke, but I think that is the case for a lot of people and clients I'm seeing who, if it feels a bit more harmless, like overeating, a lot of people are talking about weight gain right now, but definitely people who have already struggled with addictions, it's a lot harder now because you don't have your routine, your normalcy, your support, or we might find ourselves even in COVID grieving things, just grieving again, big losses or just loss of normalcy, which is also big, and finding that we're having unhealthy behaviors, binge behaviors, zoning out in front of the TV all day. So they might not seem big at first, but if that becomes our lifestyle, because we're in this, it's been months now, we can start to see some detrimental symptoms coming out of that, consequences.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's important too to acknowledge that humor, as you just mentioned, is a good positive coping, you know, skill and mechanism when we're dealing with grief and loss. You know, if we can kind of laugh and just try to find a light moment in all of this darkness and sadness and uncertainty. You know, it made me laugh, you know, and it kind of takes your mind off a little bit, you know, just for a second, and just kind of gives you a release or like a sense of relief for a second to, you know, just have a moment and just laugh. And even that is, you know, something that we do as humans. And, you know, a lot of people may not be laughing at this moment. So just finding a moment, you know, to laugh and to have fun is important, and it's healthy.
Yeah. I've had a lot of friends or clients definitely laughing about just the lack of personal space because everyone's crammed in their homes together. And I've heard it all from, I can't even go to the bathroom in peace to, a little kid's running in or a mom, whatever. And I think it's so humorous, even though it's maddening. So it's a good strategy to grieve well, is to sometimes laugh at how difficult it is, or just kind of like, okay, this is craziness I'm living in, but all right, here we are. With that, it made me think of something I've been doing that's helped just with my own anxiety and COVID, is just gratitude journaling. I think that's one that, a lot of therapists, we talk about, and it's a very therapist-y thing, I think, gratitude journaling. But now I see it's kind of trending and catching on, but it's helped me because we have had a lot of loss right now. So instead of focusing on, I can't see my clients in person, I can't see my nieces and nephews, I can't see my friends, I can't go out, I have to wear a mask, all these deficits, if we actually focus on gratitude, then it starts to change your mindset. And there's actually some research on gratitude in your brain and how it starts to rewire those pathways. So your default becomes a bit more positive, more optimistic. I'll give a plug. I use the Calm app. I love apps for mental health stuff, and Calm, they have a little prompt they send every day. You can put the time and it asks 3 things you're thankful for, 3 relationships that have impacted you, or 3 things that inspired you today. And that's been helping me, so I don't just get a bad attitude and throw in the towel. So hopefully that helps someone out there too.
Definitely. Self-care is so important during this time, and just being able to express gratitude is, a way of achieving self-care. Laughter is a way of achieving self-care. Exercise, you made the joke about Weight Watchers or AA, but, if we, find some videos on YouTube where we can exercise or do yoga, meditation, all of those things during this time, can help us achieve peace, gratitude. It'll help us to not focus so much on the negative, intrusive thoughts, combating them with positive ones. Yeah, those are great things. The Calm app, definitely. Really great ways to positively cope during this COVID season.
Yeah. And you mentioned meditation. I like Simple Habit is great. It has a lot of free ones and even COVID specific meditation. So I recommend that to clients a lot. So, and I do it myself. It's great. You can do sleep meditations, anxiety. It helps just kind of recentering, and you can do them from 1 to 5 to 10, 20, 30 minutes. So you don't have to devote your life to meditating. I think sometimes people imagine themselves for an hour, but it's just a lot of breath and body work to regulate you, slow you down. So very good. Okay. Well, anything else on not grieving well or grieving well that you want to share before we move on?
Yeah, just wanted to share that, it's important to acknowledge these feelings because you're not alone. So many people, especially, during quarantine, have so many similar feelings, of isolation, loss of connection with others. So I just want to share that it's important to, acknowledge those feelings because you're not alone. You're not weak. There's a lot of stigma surrounding that. So it's actually a strength when you do acknowledge how you're feeling. It demonstrates great courage, bravery, and just that, you value your self-worth enough to want to be better, do better, feel better, because, no one who wants to remain in sadness, for a long time. I don't know that that's really a desire of people. We want to be happy, we want to be in good relationship with people, our family, our loved ones. So it's important to, acknowledge that and grieve well so that we can have those positive relationships, be one with ourselves and be whole so that we can be and show up for other people as well.
Whew, you said it all. That's great. You're right though. Yeah, it's empowering you and it's brave. Like you said, this is not for the faint of heart. I always say that getting help,
Definitely.
going to therapy, doing groups, not for the people who want the easy way out, but it's always worth it. I love that. Showing up for yourself and for others. So actually, let's just go right into, you were talking about community and others. So let's go into the groups you're running right now. So grief and loss and COVID, we actually have a group online meeting where you can go and, well, I'll let you explain it. You'll explain it better. So what will people get from this group? What can they expect?
Well, the Grief and Loss online support group is for people who are experiencing any kind of loss, not just loss due to COVID, but any kind of loss. And there's
Mm,
so many types of losses. And we think of the typical ones, where like death of a loved one. But, we are grieving, especially in this COVID season, loss of relationships,
yeah.
um, loss of jobs, uh, loss of, normalcy, who we used to be, so many different kinds of losses. So this online support group helps people to process through those losses. We use narrative therapy, which is a great way to hear stories and
Mm,
share stories. Sometimes we minimize how important our story is. It's so important to not to share our stories, not only to heal ourselves, because there's a healing factor when we share our story, because we hold it in, we think it's small or not relevant. So there's a healing factor in just sharing our stories. And then when the group hears the story, then we learn that we have similar feelings and similar experiences. The events may be different, but the feelings that couple the events are similar. So then the loneliness decreases, the isolation is going away, just because we have that support. It's when we do individual therapy, you have the support of the one therapist, but in group therapy, you have the support of the group members as well. As group
wow.
goes on, we notice that the members start to kind of encourage one another and share their stories, and uplift one another. So I think that there's a benefit in that, to supplement individual counseling. Also, at Wellspring in particular, the online groups are cost effective. They're
Oh yeah.
cheaper than individual group sessions. So I think that
Could be a
that's
good option
a
for
a
people.
good option. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you, Salima. That was a thorough explanation. So that actually brings us to the end of our time. This has been awesome together. And thank you for all that you shared. I really hope this was helpful to our audience. And definitely, if you go to our website, wellspringmiami.org, you can look up our online groups there and see there's different topics, different types of groups that have formed. And specifically for today's topic, the grief and loss one is there and open to taking new members. So all right. Well, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much, Salima, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoy
Yes.
my time, Lindsey.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm Lindsey Steffen with Wellspring on the Air, because hearts and minds matter.